Okay. Good afternoon. So I'm looking down your guys' agenda right off the bat, purchasing. We got sheriff's office. We're gonna have to give you an office over here. We've been seeing you.
We'll be giving him a standing place at our 1:30 meetings. No, Savannah Clement, Public Works. So we have Jordan here. He's speaking on behalf of the Sheriff's Department about an items they're wanting to purchase.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for Public Works letting us cut in line briefly. So, thank you for that. Yeah, we're, again, Jordan Spencer, Chief Administrative Deputy with the Sheriff's Office. Coming to you guys today, we have a large budgetary item that we would like to purchase. We are in our, I believe, 14th year of our current tasers, which is our less lethal belt device that we have on our person. And we have the budget capacity within our budget to replace those tasers with the latest model. And we are seeking permission to spend that money to upgrade our less lethal tools for our deputies. Total
Have been lasted 14 years.
Yeah, the current models. Yeah, we've
Wow.
had to replace some, but the current model that we were using, we've had about 14 years out of. They no longer are under warranty or anything like that, and they're slowly going to start phasing out the darts and the batteries and things like that for them. So we'll have to start going third party for them. So
There's something we really need to take into account, though. Do these have the exclusion for the commissioners?
I was thinking that I could play with that.
No, it's not playing with them as if we're the target. It just won't work with us.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take anything I can get. Usually. If you have a moment or two, I'd love to hear if there any difference in technology.
yeah, there's quite a few. One of the major differences, well, a couple of differences. The the newer models, the Taser 10, they're called, is an extended range. And so what we generally get, our current range is about 25 feet or so, maximum effectiveness. We're with the Taser 10, we're upwards about 40 feet, 40 to 45 feet. So our extended range, which is better for an officer safety aspect, that we don't have to be as close to the assailant for it to be effective. The other major change is the current model is a single cartridge which fires two darts out of that cartridge. Both of those cartridges, or both of those darts, have to impact the individual in order for the NMI, they call it, neuromuscular incapacitation, to effectively work, because it's the arc between the two probes. The Taser 10 model actually has a cartridge with 10 darts in it. And so if you fire the first and it's a hit, but the second one's a miss, you can immediately follow up with that second or third or fourth, whichever one it takes to get that incapacitation range from those two. So it's a lot quicker. The reload of the current model is significantly slower. We have to take the cartridge out, put the new cartridge in. This is essentially more of a higher capacity, I guess, of the darts that we can use.
It's the same amount of energy that.
Yeah.
And what's the penetration of that? Like, would it go through something like this?
Yeah, the darts themselves, they have a small, almost like a barbed hook, like a barbed fish, so that they have a point and then it's kind of barbed. They'll penetrate heavier clothing. They say inch and a half of clothing that they'll penetrate.
Oh,
So
that's really
heavier articles of clothing they'll penetrate generally.
And accuracy is it something very predictable?
Accuracy's gotten better. Yeah, and I was essentially now with these larger capacity in the darts and firing the 10 darts, it's no longer just two darts that are firing. So they could determine that the laser on the old system was kind of your top probe, and then the bottom probe was a 7 or 8 degree decline underneath that. So it spread like a cone the further away you are. Now with the multiple darts, there's probably going to be less of that cone effect, especially given the maximum range is increased twice as much as well. So it is a sighted The tasers have sights on them, but they also have a laser indicating that initial probe.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And operationally, how do you, what's the instruction and training so that you avoid hitting like a face?
Yeah, so part of the TASER training, which is a yearly research that we have to go through, is determining the areas, the effective areas and things like that. And that's one of the 3 areas that we attempt to avoid the head, the neck area, and the groin area. We'll try to avoid those areas. So splitting the hemispheres is what they call it. So upper half of the belt line, lower half of the belt line is the most effective. And then the larger muscle areas in the back, the thighs, the buttocks, and the lower back, upper back, those larger muscles areas are the most effective.
And if the target is on a pacemaker or something like that, that's a problem?
There are some higher degree of, when we go through the training, TASER says that there's populations that are more apt to issues. It's usually the frail or infirm or the elderly or things like that. It's really, TASER has done years and years of research on how it affects the heart and what it does to pregnant females and things like that. So generally the issue is more making sure that people aren't going to be injured from the impact of the fall versus the arc of the connection between the 2 darts.
And the distance at which you're very likely to discharge, like if someone's coming at you with a knife, I'm told 20 feet or 25 feet, and they won't stop, then you shoot?
Yeah, well, there's an old saying, kind of started in the 80s. Actually, it came out of Hillsborough. There was an officer down there, Tooler, and he kind of coined this phrase, the 21-foot rule, indicating that an assailant can close the distance, armed with a knife, can close the distance of 21 feet or less prior to you being able to get a lethal shot off. So we don't really, that's not a gospel truth necessarily. I mean, there's obviously a lot of factors that weigh into that. But depending on the threat of the individual, that's probably more going to determine our use of a lethal device versus a non-lethal device.
And if you don't mind, your choice between the taser and the pistol round, that's made on the spot at the time?
Yeah, based on the assailant and what if anything they're armed with, what they're doing with it.
And I
Obviously.
imagine if there are people around, you don't want to shoot around that you might miss. And
Absolutely, yeah, which is a concern for us. That's one of the other upgrades to the TASER 10 system. Is it actually has I call it a boot up noise. So every time it's turned on, it makes an audible noise. So everybody around knows that it's the TASER that's turning on. Like when you turn on your computer, it makes that, the Dell or the Microsoft symbol. It has one of those as well on the
like the
TASER.
action on the pump shotgun?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Another deterrent, we'll call it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do appreciate all of this. How much are we talking about?
We got a quote for 50 units, which should outfit our entire department and then gives us a couple of spares. What TASER has essentially done is created a kind of a lease to own model. And so they charge you per year, per unit for a 5-year span. So each unit, the bundle package, which is what we're getting, which means we get the TASER itself, the cartridges, the batteries, the warranty, and then anything that we deploy, when we deploy it in the field, if we need a new battery, if we need a TASER fixed, anything like that, they supply that as part of the bundle package. It ends up being about $4,600 per unit over that 5-year span. So just under $1,000 a year in order for us to purchase it outright. So our quote was $254,000 for
Wow.
50, and that's us buying it outright, which is what we prefer to do. They offer a pay by the year, but I think we have the budget capacity now to buy it all outright, and that's easier for us than trying to determine if we're going to have X amount of dollars each year to pay that amount.
Is it that expensive? Because among other things, they are under a great deal of liability.
There's a lot of litigation. Unfortunately, Taser has a kind of a stranglehold on the market. There's nothing else out there. There was a company called Phaser that tried, but unfortunately Taser owns all the trademarks, all the patents and everything like that. So this is really the only tool, and it's the only place you can go to get it, unless you go to a third party and buy the older equipment, which is less effective and there's no warranty and things like that.
Thank you.
They're replacing 14-year-old guns with new technology, I guess is the bottom line. They have the budget capacity for it. It's about 250. Is that what I heard?
254, yeah.
Yeah.
And it has an exclusion for commissioners.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
We accept
Not-
volunteers
The key,
always.
the key phrase, the
Maybe
key
not
phrase to me
retired.
was, you have the budget capacity,
do.
so it's, you're not asking for more money.
Nope.
Unless you got a grant, but I didn't hear the word grant, so.
No. Katrina's worked really hard in determining that we've got the money to do that now. And like I said, if our other option is to kick the can down the road and hope that we have the capacity in the next couple of years when we're forced to upgrade. So
You won't have them by election day?
we might.
You had 14 years of service out of the old.
Yeah.
Good by me.
Great.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I apologize for being late. We had a car breakdown and screwed up the whole morning
Yeah,
schedule.
that's never fun.
Yeah.
So we do have an executive session online for 1:45. If everyone is ready to do that, I believe Doug is online at that time, so
Okay. And what's it for?
potential litigation.
Any time frame that you are comfortable with? 10?
I'm hearing 10.
Okay, we'll go into executive session, potential litigation, 10 minutes.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 10 minutes until 2:04 p.m. Executive session for the board is extending the executive session for a period of 10 minutes until 2:15 p.m. The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 2:21.
Okay, back from executive session. I don't know how to approach this. No decisions were made, or
So it looks
we
like
do have a
on
motion, or we
on
have a
one item,
suggestion?
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
ahead.
On one item, we do require a motion on it. So it looks like during our executive session, we did discuss two potential options in moving forward. And so we're asking the board to make a motion to approve either option A in the county moving forward with potential litigation, or option B, which was to not move forward. I know that's extremely vague, but that was, I believe, the direction given.
So A is potential litigation and B is do nothing.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt option A.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt option A, which is moving forward with potential litigation.
And I think it needs to be pretty clear that although we can't get into specifics, the decision that we're making is in the best interest of Cowlitz County and the policy and protecting property rights for the public.
I would agree, yes.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Okay. right, so we're just moving along in the original agenda, which is to discuss purchasing still, and that is the on-call contracts discussion. So we would like to bring forward several on-call contracts for facilities. In taking over facilities a couple of years ago, we noticed a great need to continue to do ongoing maintenance on some items. A few of them I will list. It could be, I know currently we have one on-call contract for HVAC, but this would be on-call electrical contracts. It would be on-call.
Yeah, so we'd be on-call, Sean Rowe, Public Works. On-call contracts for such things as electrical, plumbing, HVAC, carpentry, trees, locksmiths, things of that nature. These would go for a 1-year period and be renewed for 1 additional year. And it would be presented as a single bid going out. Any contractor could bid on one section or all sections, anything they're qualified for. And then those would be awarded to the lowest bidder of those.
They would be not to exceed, so it wouldn't mean that we would pay them these upfront contracts in full. It would just be the ability to be able to use them at any given time without going through the multiple bid process, and then also the newer regulations and purchasing coming from the state level, which we've discussed with the board a couple times, which is prohibitive as far as time constraints. So this is what we're looking to do. We haven't brought it to the board before, so we really wanted to kind of get some direction if the board is comfortable in doing on-call contracts for maintenance items. And we do have it in legal right now under review.
So the reason for doing this is that we don't have or cannot hire staff with the expertise that is needed to address all of these problems.
That is a piece of the puzzle, specifically for HVAC, electrical, plumbing. We do have, facilities maintenance technicians that do work on plumbing. But when they reach a certain level of complexity, we then have to go out for 3 bids, select from the lowest bidder, which takes a lot of time if we're dealing with some, an emergent situation.
So this simply allows for a process that will then be coming back to us for final approval.
Right, we would still follow purchasing guidelines. Is that correct if it's over the threshold?
Yeah, so what it really establishes, as Savannah says, before state law change, we could get 3 bids, 3 quotes, and then award to the lowest one. That's no longer available to us under these new regulations. And so by having these established, it really stops us from having to do the bid process on any prevailing wage job that would take weeks at a time before getting it in. It allows us to address the issues quickly and efficiently and legally.
Well, we don't know if it's legal yet. They haven't looked at it, right?
We did talk to,
Probably isn't.
we did talk, before coming to the board, we did talk to Doug this morning to make sure we were okay to move forward with them. And he did say that there is, attorneys general review and other counties that do this. And then he was still reviewing it, but he was okay if we went to the board to discuss and get your opinion.
Because normally the way you described it, we have to get something done right now. That's an emergency. And we don't have problems getting work done under emergencies.
No, it doesn't. It's not that we, sometimes we do have stumbling blocks in the amount of time it takes to get 3 bids. If we had to come to the board and ask for an emergency for, we don't like to do that unless it's over a certain threshold dollar wise. Sometimes we have what we would consider an emergent fix, that could be over $10,000. And then we do have to, get some authority to sign things. It doesn't happen a lot. But with these new changes, it will add that time frame and complexity where we're having to use the small works roster now, and it's going to be a lot more time consuming. So we just saw this as an opportunity to try it for 1 year, if the board was comfortable and if legal was okay with it.
Well, from my perspective, I like it. I'd want to put some not to exceed in there, and then there are other things to think about. I'm assuming you're thinking about a specific event that you would use a policy for. And you're not looking for just the blanket. The carpenter for Cowlitz County is
No,
Right.
it's
So,
very specific.
good. And then I really don't like using the term emergency. It's always bothered me because emergency means I'm having a heart attack now and you're saying, no, I've got to go on an RFP to see which ambulances are going to come. And clearly that doesn't make any sense. It's not that every circumstance you'll be in will be
No.
an emergency. You'll take care of that and then ask questions. This is just like, let's get permission ahead of time to be sensible and economic about
Mhm.
this. Every time you send out an RFP, there's a few dollars involved with trying to figure that out.
Mhm.
And you may be hitting the threshold where the analysis exceeds the costs savings of any other approach. So I'd like to see what you have, what you come up with.
Absolutely. We will provide, of course, an example prior to going to a Tuesday public meeting to the board. We just wanted to make sure before doing that work, that was an okay direction, since we haven't done it.
I'm good. My mind's still elsewhere, but I'm good.
So you're not asking for a motion or anything?
We're
just
not asking for a
informing us
decision or
because of the
approval,
directions we need
just
to be aware of.
really if it's okay. I know we didn't have any strong objections moving forward and kind of spending some more time on this and getting something else in front of the board.
Yeah, you've kind of already defined it as a kind of a project by project
I'm sorry.
approach.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Sorry.
It's the DOA test.
Okay, thank you. All right, so our next item is a public works item to discuss Wahkiakum Council of Governments. And I'm bringing Susan up to do that.
So good afternoon, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. So it was brought to my attention that you guys are considering severing ties with the Council of Governments. So
Pretty premature. I don't know that we're even there. I don't know where you got that.
So, but if that's the direction you guys want to look into, I need to do a little research into what impact that has on our ability to get federal road grants. So that is a concern because they are our MPO and our TPO and control all of the statewide tip and the regional tips that our plant projects have to be included on in order to receive federal funding.
I think for me, I've always been what I'd call a pursuit of simplicity and value added. And that's all that I kind of was hinting at during when we discussed. There's this sense of entitlement and everything. Part of a reason that we don't have sometimes as many bids coming in on something because somebody said, well, such and such a company got it last time, don't bother even applying. And because they've got the end. And I'm trying to break that mentality and just say everything is always on the table. And specifically what the chairman said, there was no specific discussion of undoing the COG. There was some discussion on WASAC, but that's in turmoil now. All right, so there was more significant discussion.
Okay.
But you will continue, you will see if there are options.
Yeah. Yes, I will continue looking at the options. I had a discussion with the local programs engineer at WashDOT, who's our liaison when we're using federal funds, and he emailed me generously a 200-page document about it, and then a couple other resources to be looking into.
the
So-
200 pages were other options rather than the local regional government.
No, the 200 pages were state law, federal law, WACs, and how they relate to our regional transportation planning organizations and metropolitan planning organizations and how they're set up. And
Well,
so,
you're very lucky because this got in some aspirin, so.
Well, I don't think every county is part of a metropolitan planning district, is it?
No, we're,
Yeah, so there has to be ways around it.
So you're right, Lewis County is not, and and that's why they sent me this information and recommended I talk to Lewis County about how they run and organize that documentation and money. So,
But Lewis County's projects are reviewed by the regional, the SWAPCO's Transportation
yeah,
Planning Organization, which is
that's,
staffed by ARCOG. So
Oh.
it's, they're there,
yeah.
so. Well, good luck on your search, because
I guess this is just my little history, pretend to be an attorney time.
Yeah, I think the intent was just to gather enough information to, if the letter that we received a copy of was pretty, kind of stating similar to what Susan mentioned, so maybe that wasn't in line with what was discussed. But we were just trying to seek information to provide some information to the board to make sure that the board was aware and the new board could be aware. We just didn't have all that information at the time, so. Okay, from facilities, we do have just 2 updates to the board. We're still working on the OPD annex move, and we are doing a lot of work over there. I would be, if any board members are interested in doing a small tour, we're over there frequently. Kind of love to walk around and talk to you guys about the future plans. And we are moving forward with probably in the near future coming to the board and asking for approval on some, they're called panel systems, not cubicles anymore, but some panel system purchases, been corrected several times. So in moving forward with that move and with some of the other divisions that we have moving along with that to make space for OPD. So just that's moving along. Any question?
Yeah, the OPD stuff doesn't really lend itself to, it's easier for me to say cubicle.
You can say cubicle.
Thank you.
I don't think you'll get in trouble.
so one of the questions that has been running through my mind since
Mhm.
we've agreed to the changes, how are we going to be handling the parking problem? I can't remember what the solution or what the change is going to be, because there's going to be a heck of a lot more cars competing for the spaces over there.
Absolutely. We're working with the churches across the street who has I wouldn't say it's a vacant lot. It is used a couple times a week. And looking at what we can do as an agency to co-utilize that space, similar to what we do with the Kelso Christian Academy parking across the street. Big difference there is being, we actually physically own half that parcel. So it's not like an agreement to use. We own the spaces that we're supposed to park in. So we're working with them. I believe it's the same owners or administration that runs both in potentially maybe improving the lot and doing a user agreement, working with the PA's office to do that. Of course, no promises have been made, but we've started talking with them. We're also looking at improving some of the museum parking. Obviously, it's a block away, so it's not ideal, but as a backup option for overflow. So we're looking at those types of considerations at this time.
You overlooked one easy answer.
Ooh,
Bicycles.
bicycles. We just need,
Supposed to smile.
yeah,
Dennis.
to add the bike lane. No. So we're looking at that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I think they have a hard enough time getting lawyers as it is. Adding a bicycle requirement
But
might be a distance.
You know what they say, lawyer rides a bicycle is a happy lawyer. That's an old saying.
That's very old saying.
One more item to add on that front, we are looking to acquire more motor pool vehicles for Office of Public Defense to utilize to transport back and forth to the hall. Currently, they're in very close proximity, walking distance in some occasions, or bikes. So we're looking for other vehicles for them to utilize for transportation. So, and then I really just have one other item, which is the Hall of Justice HVAC project. We're still meeting weekly with Millig on planning. Right now, my focus is relocation of certain divisions, so I've been meeting with them. I just finished 2 of those meetings, and I have another meeting next week to address, right now it's in the very beginning stages. We just started meeting, but to kind of address some of the low-hanging fruit and items that we need to now to move forward for potential relocation. So I don't have a ton of information on that, but we are working on that, so I just wanted to give the board an update. And that is all we have, unless the board has any other questions.
Again, I found this quite useful. Thank you.
So, we have begun our budgeting processes
Mhm.
and adding to the fleet of cars is an expensive proposition.
I'm so sorry. You said adding more cars?
Adding more cars is an expensive proposition.
It is.
I'm not exactly sure we've got an unlimited supply of cash to make
We-
it possible.
We are not purchasing new. We are actually using current ones that are still active, that could be surplused. We're keeping those that are still, we still have the ability to maintain, that are running well, that have lower miles. So we're not adding to the fleet in that sense, but to your point, it does cost money to maintain them. But we don't plan on adding to the fleet for this purpose.
Well, I'll be skeptical about that, but
It's a
that's-
valid
That's my
point.
right.
It is a valid
And it's a
point.
short-term concern of mine, so.
Sorry, anything else?
So-
Okay, we will adjourn. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank
Do
you.
you have public comment? Okay.